Welcome to another insightful episode of Me and My Health Up. Health Up seeks to inspire and enhance and enlighten the well-being of others. I'm your host, Anthony Harcher. I'm a clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist. Today we're talking about a very important topic, certainly an important topic to me and the community, and it's on body imaging and exercise. In previous episodes, we've covered body imaging from a dietary point of view, from a nutritional point of view, and the eating disorders that come as a result of the obsession around body imaging. And today we're going to look at it from an exercise point of view. So I've brought along someone that is so passionate about this topic, Anna Hearn. How are you doing, Anna?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Anna is so passionate about this. She's actually set up a wellness haven, and this wellness haven offers a special space for women who are seeking something new and in their fitness and their yoga culture. It's a unique body positive, size inclusive community, offering soulful yoga, fun group fitness classes, dedicated one-on-one personal training, and a range of therapies to support these women. And as well, attached to all this is a super cool community, which is all about supporting one another on their journeys of wellness. So Anna, welcome, and thanks for joining us. I'm really keen to find out how you've come about with this wellness haven, your journey to getting there. Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Well, like many women that I've met, that I've come across, I grew up learning that it really wasn't okay to be in a bigger body. Bigger bodies were deemed unattractive, unhealthy. They were given titles of lazy and, greedy. And that message sort of came through from society, from the adults around me. And I think as a young kid, an impressionable, young, kind of sensitive kid, who I saw myself as chubby compared to my older, smaller, skinny, blonde sisters. I felt like a bit of a black sheep. I'm dark-haired. I felt like the chubby one in the family, and I just really took that message on. So as I sort of hit puberty, I started becoming really, really self-conscious of my body. And I started dieting around age 11, and that set off decades of a disordered relationship with food and just a really terrible relationship with my body. So I would say at points, I really, really, really disliked my body. I really hated my body. And from there, I tried everything under the sun to kind of fix myself, always thinking that my body was the problem, and if only I could find the perfect way to control my body through diet, through exercise, then unicorns and rainbows would pop out of the sky, and everything would be happy and perfect and live the perfect life. But what really happened was these decades of just a really unhealthy relationship with food and body. And it wasn't until I discovered health at every size, the non-diet approach, the body positive movement, and learnt about weight stigma and size inclusivity, a weight neutral approach to movement to health, that everything really shifted for me. So I started to adopt that for my own personal journey and dived, deeper and deeper into that. And of course, then at the time, I was a personal trainer, just starting out, and I couldn't help but want to share that with my clients. So at the time, I was working from a sort of traditional women's studio, and although there was a level of community, which was lovely, which I enjoyed, there was still the traditional focus on, I should be measuring my clients every month with a tape measure. We should be selling them protein shakes. We should be selling them this meal plan, even though we weren't nutritionists. And this is something that is really common in traditional gym and diet culture. So I just felt really conflicted. I was working in this space, yet my personal integrity was offering something different. So I just realized that if I wanted to stay in the fitness world, which I wasn't sure if I did, I needed to find a space where I could take my clients and guarantee that I could offer them a diet culture free space. So that's how Haven was born. And just a little quick background too on how I actually got into fitness. In my late 20s, I got into fitness for, you know, the purpose of changing my body, for controlling my body. Before that, I had been quite a kind of boozy younger person, you know, partying quite a lot, and there were ways that I could control my body through that, through drugs and through, you know, drinking and sort of partying and skipping meals and that kind of thing. But as I got older, I started to explore movement, and I got a personal trainer and started working out. And then I got heavily into running, which I always share this. I got heavily into running and yoga, and I got into them to change my body, to control, to manipulate my body. But what kept me there was the benefits that it gave me mentally and emotionally. For me, I have anxiety, so it really helped me manage that. And it also built up my confidence. And I also stayed for the community, because both the running community and the yoga community were really were a big part of my life at different points. So I started a running group, and it became really successful. I was heavily into using exercise obsessively. I was running leading runs, you know, 6 times a week. I was doing hot yoga after, you know, every run, or doing some boot camps, and, you know, just doing lots of physical movement. And yeah, like I said, I started, sorry, I was leading the running group. From that, I wanted to build it into a business. So I studied my Cert 3 in fitness to be able to do that. And then that led me into the personal training. And then, like I said, it led me into opening Haven as I discovered the non-diet and health at every size approach. Sorry, that was a lot of information.
No, it's very helpful, Anna. You know, it's really nice to hear your story, because, you know, the listeners, there'll be people out there that relate to the journey you've been on. And yeah, I think it's great to share that story, because, you know, the more we share, you know, that this is not uncommon, you know, it's a common feeling amongst the community, then the more we can do about changing it. And certainly, you know, this podcast is all about creating that awareness, that understanding, so that we can make positive change in the community.
Yeah, it's great to have the chance to share the message. And it is such a common thing. It's a common thread in our society of having this body dissatisfaction. And I realized that I've met so many women, and it's like, regardless of shape and size, so many of us have this preoccupation with body, this dissatisfaction with body. So I think that really reflects the problem in our society.
In terms of, you know, there'll be listeners certainly listening in that thinking, you know, I have this disconnection with my body, this hate, you know, you mentioned the word hate, and really wanting to change it to a particular image, and doing anything to try to fix yourself. What is your message to those people that are experiencing that thinking and really want to, I guess, get in a more joyful, a more happy place? You know, what would be your tips in terms of helping those people?
That's a great question. Well, I think that, like, for me, it was a recognition of I could continue pursuing, you know, this pursuit of thinness, of smallness, of controlling my body, but it come with a lot of disordered behavior. It really messes with your mental and emotional state. And I just wanted to let go of that. So I chose the pursuit of peace over that. So, you know, I guess it can help to sort of weigh out what's more important, you know, how you look, or the peace mentally, physically, and emotionally. And so that was the kind of the recognition for me, and I sort of gave it all up. But I had obviously I'd come across this non-diet body positive approach, and, you know, just starting to explore that, I think just dipping your toes in and seeing if this is something for you would be the first step. And you can do that through exploring the online communities. You know, social media and online communities can be really dangerous in some ways, because there's such the focus on the Fitspo, the Instagram models and all of that stuff, but you can use it for good as well, and start to follow some body positive plus size models and people that are coaching in this space, fat positive activists, and, you know, follow podcasts like your own, and just dive into it and see if, you know, these messages are resonating. And then, of course, so sort of expanding your thoughts around yourself and your body to be, you know, you're you're worth much more than just your appearance and your body. And health can look like something very different at different times in your life and from one person to the next. And it's not just all about, what you eat and how you move and how you look. So I think, yeah, and that this comes in a lot for a lot of things. Building that community of resources and people who are supporting this approach, and starting to kind of, I guess, crowd out the other diet culture messages with the messages that are really going to support you on this path.
Fantastic. No, that's really helpful. So it really is finding those right environments, that supports you and supports where you want to go without being, that feeling of judgment and.
Exactly.
Yeah. You mentioned this thing of, this dieting and body imaging culture, and, the fact that you weigh in, you measure and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, we often talk about that measurement helps us, I guess, understand if we're moving towards our goals or away from our goals.
Mm-hmm.
In your approach, you don't like this weigh-in sort of concept. What is your alternative? Like, what do you suggest listeners do that, are really fearful of the scales, or, don't want to go down that path? What else can they do in terms of knowing that they're heading in the right direction towards? Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. I just want to point out that, scales can be, yes, they are like a tool. They can give you a quick sort of, result. And I'm doing that in, inverted commas. But we all know that the scales aren't reflective of like body composition, for example. So they don't even like work necessarily for that sort of purpose. I think too, they're quite heavily related to the BMI, so the body mass index, which is very outdated. And if you're not aware of this, it was designed by I think, Belgian mathematician in the 1800s or something for population. It was never designed for the individual, which I find, it's crazy that it's still used now, sort of separating the world into these 3 or 5 categories, and determining your health based on this. It's just far too broad. And so in the body positive and sort of non-diet space, we know that is really kind of irrelevant. But what the scales do is they can just keep you fixated on body dissatisfaction. It ends up being something that you measure your worth against. You're good if you've lost the weight, or you're bad if you haven't. It just keeps you in that same mindset, keeps you fixated on the sort of the body preoccupation and the disordered body image concerns and that. And it also leads to what I call fitness trauma or gym trauma. So I'll give you an example of a story that a client shared with me, and I've heard about this from a few different people too. There's a sort of gym, a chain of gyms that would put their clients on a scale every week when they'd weigh in, and ring a bell if they had lost weight. So what that leads to is that if the bell's rung, the whole gym will clap and congratulate the person. And if the bell wasn't rung, then that person feels really defeated, deflated, and quite shamed as well. So I think it can be really damaging in that way. So one, it doesn't work. It doesn't accurately depict what's actually going on in somebody's body. 2, it leads to obsessive fixation with the number on the scale and self-worth relating to that. And then I think there are much more interesting ways to kind of measure your success. And look, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of results and measuring because of my background. And for somebody who has had a disordered relationship with food and body, numbers can sometimes not be a great thing. So it can be really helpful to maybe steer away from them completely, or perhaps for a period of time if you're kind of recovering, healing, looking at moving away from diet culture. For me personally, I just stepped right away from that kind of movement. So with running, I was I was aware of my timing and my pace and all of that. And there was this competitive nature to that. Naturally, I'm not that competitive. So perhaps for me, it was easy to kind of step away from that. And now my approach to movement and my own practice is just to move, like in ways that feel good in that moment. And that's kind of at the heart of what we offer here. And So we do really invite, we talk about compassionate movement here at Haven, and we're inviting the members to connect in with their body and kind of check in with how they feel mentally, emotionally, physically, and what it is they need. Do they need a hard, sort of strong, fast, sweaty session, or do they need something a little more grounding, slower paced? It doesn't always need to reflect numbers or to know that you're sort of making, progress. And I'm putting that again in inverted commas, because for some of us, it's not necessarily about that progress and always kind of moving forward. Sometimes it's just about like feeling good in your body. And that's the way I personally like to move. I would just point out though, like we have a lovely range of trainers here too. So of course, as a trainer, and I do very little training now because I'm managing the studio, but there is, we will have some kind of program obviously that we're working with, and we're working towards something. And yes, some clients will present with a specific goal or something that they are working towards, or an injury recovery or something. So there are elements of sort of measuring around that, but we do it from a place of sort of celebrating the body and how it moves, and that without needing to always talk about the numbers and the specifics around it, if that makes sense.
No, I totally hear you, Anna, and it does make a lot of sense, because I agree with you. The scales aren't a true reflection of what's going on. It's just a number, and it's a total number, and doesn't really tell you, whether you're losing fat and gaining muscle, which is generally what people want to achieve.
Yeah.
And so therefore it can give you a distorted view of what's really going on. And it's good to have other indicators. And I really liked your point about that sort of that more compassionate feeling towards exercise. And if you were to go to numbers, I guess the scientific world, or that real measured approach, is the heart rate variability measure. But for me, it's intuitive. Like when I personally go to the gym, I know when I'm feeling flat and when I'm feeling energized. And I like how you allow the people that come to Wellness Haven to check in with how they're feeling, and then do a session oriented around how they're feeling. Because I think that's where ultimate success will come. Because as you know, when we turn up, we're feeling flat, and we need to do an energetic session, we're just not going to be able to keep up, and we're going to feel terrible about ourselves, because there'll be other people that feel really energetic, and they're doing great. They're keeping up with the moves, but because you're feeling flat, you just can't, and then you feel inferior, and it affects your self-talk, and you feel inadequate, and so I really like how you do that sort of that compassionate check-in.
And like in saying that too, like I said, we do have, people come for all different reasons here. So we'll always sort of invite them in to check in with their body in that way. And some people might be, who might not resonate with having a disordered relationship with food and body, might not feel so concerned around numbers and that sort of thing. So it's also like individual basis as well. So we're working with the individual and learning about them and knowing what they need and what kind of approach they need as well.
Have you got any strategies around that disconnecting from comparing yourself to others? Because it's just, it's that primitive, we have a sort of primitive instinct around, we assess things when we first see them, and we sort of make that judgment as to whether they're a threat or non-threat, and that's within us, and so we're constantly judging our surroundings, and so it's quite a normal sort of response. But then how do you stop it from then taking over and then flowing on to thinking I'm not as good as that person, and like, have you got some strategies around helping that judgment part of the mind?
For sure. I think that comes up a lot for many of us, and especially in traditional gym culture, and that and that's something that I think I hear about a lot from new clients and that coming in. And so one thing I refer back to how I mentioned about having a surrounding yourself with a community and resources and that of people doing this kind of work. So the more you can kind of bring in that kind of approach and that the information that really supports you and crowd out the rest, the more you sort of build this resilience around that traditional diet culture. So I think that's really important, like having a community. And that can be, like, you can build that online community. Obviously here, like, community is a massive part of Haven. So what's lovely about here, and we're very lucky because we have our Haven, you know, is a safe haven for women who are looking for this different approach. And we've built it so that the people who come here, I meet them all, you know, meet and greet one-on-one, do a consult and share with them what our message is about, and let them know that we really invite them to let go of comparisons. That's it's part of our ethos. We invite them to let go of judgments, whether that's judging their own bodies or judging others, because those biases that we have around other bodies can really impact our own relationship with our body. So gently kind of using a compassionate framework in your own mind, compassionate dialogue with yourself to let go of judgments. When you enter the door, so what we always say, when you enter the door, just like kind of let it all drift away. And we're lucky here to have no mirrors. So I made the decision when I opened Haven to have no mirrors. And I know that mirrors can be really helpful for alignment and that kind of thing. But I found that with our approach, the benefit of not having the distraction of seeing your body, especially if, you know, you have a history with disordered food-body relationship, you know, you can catch yourself in the mirror if you're in a vulnerable place, and that can really throw you off. So I decided that the benefit of not having mirrors outweighed the benefit of having them, and we're able to, because we're quite small and intimate, we do a lot of one-on-one and that, so we're coaching our clients and helping them feel how the shapes, how the moves, exercises feel correctly, feel well in their body. So having no mirrors, I think that cuts out that comparison straight away, because you're just not catching yourself all the time. And the other thing I was going to say was kind of creating your own little bubble. I call it, you know, a Haven bubble. It's putting that armor around that resilience to protect yourself. And it can be just a matter of having a little moment of internal dialogue with yourself, reminding yourself that, hey, I'm entering this space where I might feel a little triggered. I might feel like moving into those comparison thoughts of other bodies, but hey, I'm going to honor and just protect and care for this body that I have in this moment. And we're always trying to invite our clients to bring it back to caring for this body they have right now, not the body they had, you know, before the baby, or the body they want to have, the body they had 10 years ago when they're at their smallest, but the body that they have now, because bodies are always going to change. So the ability to be resilient with that and have a sense of acceptance and to be able to honor and celebrate this body is really powerful. And look, it's a practice. It takes time, and it's not something that you just learn about and then all of a sudden, you love your body and you don't compare. It's not the way it works. So I often gently let people know to just, you know, this is a practice. Don't expect it to be linear, and be kind to yourself.
Great point, Anna. You know, that last point on, you know, accepting that it's a journey. You know, it's not somewhere you just arrive. You know, you'll wake up, you'll feel great some mornings. You'll wake up, not feel great, and not have the energy. And you know, it's really just going with how you are in that present moment. And that's what I really like, that approach you have with the, you know, the Haven Wellness Bubble is, you know, when you come into this space, you know, just accept who you are, embrace who you are, and be in the now, and move as you are, feeling. And you know, and I think, you know, like and I was like to pick up on an earlier point you raised about really embracing the movement and doing movement that's fun, as opposed to having a predetermined thinking that this is exercise and this is not exercise. You know, it's black and white. You know, if I'm not doing high intensity, I'm not training, you know, I'm not doing the right training, and, you know, it's all about high intensity training. But I think, you know, the earlier point you raised was around that, really enjoying what you're doing. And that's a key measure to success, that you're progressing, is that enjoyment, and marrying that into what you just said about being in the now. What are some of those exercises? Like, can you give us some examples of the fun sort of things you do at Haven that people could, you know, take on, you know, if they're not close proximity to Haven, you know, they're some distance away from Haven, that they could do themselves and really enjoy that movement, knowing that they're, you know, they're embracing their body and they're, you know, they are getting exercise.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll just refer to an experience that I've had recently. So I have recently just started going back to a yoga studio where I used to go. I actually used to work there for quite a number of years when I was quite thick and heavily into obsessively exercising and doing hot yoga. And it took me, I feel like as I learned about this non-diet approach and health at every size, I stepped away. I actually took quite a big break from the movement, the exercise that I had been doing. And it was like I needed those couple of years where I was still doing, you know, different types of some movement and obviously, you know, running some PT and classes and that. So moving in that way, but not doing sort of any real structured exercise. So for me, it was like I needed to take that step back to then approach it with a fresh lens. So I've recently started to go back, and I was quite nervous because I thought I might be really triggered. This is a studio with mirrors. My body has changed, physically changed a lot since I was in that culture. I definitely felt like, you know, I was the only one not wearing a crop top, for example. And, you know, I could definitely sense like it was that kind of culture, but I was able to, because I had this fresh lens, this new perspective where it is not about how I look, it's about how I feel in my body and just wanting to enjoy the movement. So for me, I was able to put that aside, the concerns, the comparisons and all of that, and just enjoy how it felt to be in my body. So I did sort of arm myself, you know, put up that little Haven bubble before I went in and just had that little moment of internal dialogue, like, hey, this is a practice for me. And so for me, yoga is that practice. It's something where I can go to and I can sort of block out the rest of it. And it's something I really love and I really enjoy, and I enjoy being in the moment. For somebody else, it might be something completely different. It might be swimming in the ocean, or it might be, you know, playing with the kids in a park, or it might be going to a specific class or doing a class online or something. But I guess it's helpful to remember that exercise movement doesn't have to be this measured, structured, you know, thing that gives you a specific kind of result. It can be, movement can come in all sort of shapes and forms. And I think it's helpful to find the things that serve you. I think we're also taught in our culture that there's this morality around exercise, that you're a good person if you exercise, and, you know, go hard or go home, no pain, no gain, sort of push, push, push. And where I think, and what we find here, the longevity in a relationship with movement, if that's something that you want to explore and build on, is finding the movement that you really enjoy, that feels intrinsic, like you want to do it for something intrinsic, not the external purpose of looking a certain way or, you know, being as, you know, up there as somebody else, you know, that competitive side. So if you can find the thing that really serves you, that you find some element of joy in, some element of, you know, you feel comfortable, it has to be kind of accessible to you. You don't want to feel like you're doing something that's out of your reach or uncomfortable in your body. It's, you know, in a space that feels accessible and comfortable, then that's going to give you that sort of longevity. And in terms of like not being able to, you know, come to Haven as such, there's, again, going back to the community thing, there's so much out there online. Once you start delving into the body positive or fat positive world, there's a lot of cool people doing some amazing things. So I can suggest a couple of onliners: Amber Carnes, Diane Bondi, Dana Falsetti. These are all from some of my favorite bigger bodied yogis that I love to follow. There's a great like app or website called Join, which is really cool, and it's like all body positive, different bodies doing different kinds of dancing and movement, which is really fun. And those kind of things you could do in the comfort of your own home, you know, without worrying about how you feel being exposed to others, and build up your confidence that way. But yeah, I think finding what it is that feels really good for you and having some element of joy is something so powerful that you can take anywhere.
Yeah, I totally hear you, and I totally agree. It's really, you know, if it brings you joy, then you'll want to do more of it, and particularly if you can find others to surround you that also enjoy that type of exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Just with those online, yogi classes and the app that you mentioned, yeah, if you could share that with me, and then I can put it in the field, yeah, of notes, and that way the listeners can go directly to those links. So tell us a little bit more about Haven Wellness and how you accommodate for those uniquenesses about people. There's obviously different body shapes and sizes, different people at different age groups, and people got different goals. And so there's all these, differences and wants and needs. And obviously, yeah, that's what you specialize in at Haven. So I'm really keen to find out how you actually accommodate for those needs.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's something it's such a beautiful thing in our world that, there is diversity in bodies. And it's really lovely to see, like in one of, in my yoga class, for example, I love it when I see bodies all practicing in different ways. And I always will suggest and mention throughout and mention at the start of the class, I'm here to guide you, but ultimately it's your body, your rules. You're the master of your body. And I don't know how you feel. Only you can judge that. And some clients come without, some people who are new to movement and new to yoga or gym, and that don't have too much body awareness. So it can take time for them to learn how to read their body and how to listen in. And so they will just sort of follow along, and that's great. And that's what they need in that moment. But we try to just always offer variations. So we will invite people to take, this is one way to do it, this is another way to do it, and this is another way, without there being a hierarchy as such, like this is the easy way, or then you can do this if you are strong. We sort of just make it like this is a way and this is another way, and sometimes sort of give a little bit of information around why this shape would feel better if you have, if you resonate with having tight legs, sometimes tight hamstrings, and knowing that our members we're not really serving like elite athletes or anything. These are everyday lovely people who don't necessarily know everything about anatomy or anything. So we just try to keep things in easy, comfortable, accessible language, and just try to offer things that make sense to them. So for example, if you resonate with having tight hamstrings, then perhaps you'll use a block to support you in this shape. So we use things like blocks and props in yoga, for example. In our fitness classes, we might have a range of different needs. And I guess we do find that certain types of bodies and needs come to different classes. There are different things that appeal to different bodies in that. And because we're still quite small, we've just recently actually moved into a really beautiful big warehouse space. We are growing into our space. So we are sort of, welcoming in new members in that and getting bigger, but our classes they're still quite intimate. So we do get to know everybody well, and so we can help to serve them from having that knowledge about what they need. So it'll be the same sort of thing I mentioned, suggesting here's one way to do it. There's a bench set up if you would like to have a little bit of support and feel more comfortable with less gravity at play, or you could do this variation if you've got lots of energy and your joints are happy and healthy today. You can take it into a jump, or just sort of give a little bit of information and education and gently support and offer the variations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. I really like how you accommodate for all different variations of flexibility and capability, and certainly it's helped me in the past is knowing that there's options, because I'm one of those people that have tight hamstrings. So there's certain movements that I really struggle with, but knowing there's an alternative and there's a block, it really serves me. So
feel good for everybody, even though the traditional pose looks one way when you see it in a yoga book or a fitness book or whatever. I think that's really helpful. One thing I just point out too is that we do, because our community is we're so big on community. I really do love to meet everybody that comes in, because it's important to me. For one, I really just want to protect the culture that we have. So we've built this lovely community of women who come here because it's the safe space. We're not about bums on seats. We're not for just everybody who can go to any gym and are quite comfortable there. We're for those women who are looking for something where they are safe and supported and don't feel intimidated. And so me being able to meet the new clients as they come in, means that I can have those conversations and make sure that we're the kind of space for them. And and that we can offer them what they need, and that they'll find value from it. And that way I get to know the clients a little bit, and, you know, I can share with the other trainers, hey, we've got this, you know, lovely new client. She's got a little bit of sort of, you know, trauma from gyms in the past, and let's just really look after her. And, you know, so we kind of communicate with our team that way.
That's beautiful. I love how you look after your new members like that. So how do our listeners, you know, if they're within close proximity, so, you know, please share, you know, where Haven Wellness is located, and how can people best get in touch with you? Because they may relate to your story, but maybe too far away and just, you know, wanting to have a conversation with you. And yeah, so how can people best contact you, and how can they come along to Haven Wellness?
Great. Well, for one, I am always up for a chat. So if anybody does, even if they're not nearby and they just want to chat with somebody who maybe they do resonate with my story and they want to get a little bit of advice or just hear from my kind of lived experience perspective, I'm always open to that, so they can reach out to me, no problem. And I've actually got a lovely big network of people that I've been connecting with all over Australia and the world who are in this space as well. So I can maybe put them in touch with somebody if they're not here. But we're located in Summerhill, in the heart of the inner west in Sydney. We've just recently moved into a beautiful, big, spacious, airy warehouse, which is really lovely for COVID. We've got a private yoga room, lovely mezzanine where we do our boogie dance classes, which are super fun. We have an amazing teacher for that, Joe. And then we have our lovely trainers who offer all, you know, they all have their sort of different approach and experience in that to bring. And we offer a small group fitness and personal training out there in the gym space. And then we also have our couple of therapy rooms. So we have a lovely team of professionals. We have a couple of counsellors. We have Nina, who you know, Nina, our lovely, wonderful non-diet nutritionist, who's just such a pleasure to have, so helpful for our members. And we also have a dietitian, just part-time as well, and a beauty therapist, actually, a lovely sort of nurturing, body positive beauty therapist who does massage and all the traditional things. So we offer all of this, and we're in the heart of Summerhill. You can find us at havenwellness.com.au, so it's probably the best place. For those that are nearby and want to pop in, if they are unsure or anything, they can always just give me a call for a chat first, or they can go ahead and book a cuppa and consult, I call it. So come in and meet with me and I'll show them around and learn about them. And then I can offer them a free class if they want to try that out, or set them up with one of the trainers or whatever. We're also on Instagram and on Facebook, and it's Haven Wellness Studio on Instagram and Haven Wellness on Facebook.
And listeners will certainly incorporate those links and how to easily contact Anna. So thanks for sharing your story, the insight that you have in relation to body imaging, body respect, body love, and exercise, and how we can go about enjoying what we do without passing judgment of ourselves or comparison, by getting into our Haven Wellness bubble. I love that. I'm going to find my Haven Wellness bubble.
Yeah, and it could be that maybe it's not Haven bubble for all, but maybe it's some sort of armor to protect yourself, whatever you resonate with that makes sense to you.
Totally. Yeah. So thanks again, Anna. And it was an absolute delight to have you on the show. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of Me and My Health Up. And stay tuned, because there'll be more to come on not only this topic, but all other topics, health and wellness. So thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Thanks, Anthony.
Bye.